Hello everyone, good evening and welcome to Machine Learning with Python workshop. Am I audible? Can you see my screen? Good evening. Good evening all. Good evening and welcome to Machine Learning with Python workshop. Can I get some response in chat box? Am I audible? Can you see my screen? Yeah, thank you for the confirmation. Thank you. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll start with the session on the introduction for machine learning. That will be the agenda for this particular session. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening and sorry for the delay. Good evening all. Can I get a few more responses in chat box? So I hope we have a lot of count in the live and the messages are very few. Can I get few more response in the chat box? Good evening. Can I get any emojis like a thumbs up emoji in chat box just to kickstart the session? Good evening. So before starting this session on machine learning, I just want to get input from the audience, dear participants. You can post whatever you have in your mind when we talk about the term what is machine learning. So I am interested to get some responses in chat box and please keep this session interactive. Please post your answers in chat box. So please keep this session interactive so that both of us in either of the side won't get bored in this session. Yeah, good evening. What is machine learning? What is the idea you have in your mind when we talk about machine learning? Anything in specific? Do you have any kind of like the explanation or a definition for machine learning which you have when we talk about this particular topic? Good evening all, good evening. Very good evening. Yeah, good evening all. What is machine learning? Okay, for your question on what is the major difference between supervised and unsupervised learning, I'll just ask you to wait for a few more slides because we'll be having or we'll be seeing about the types. So just to make sure everyone also understands it, I'll be explaining that in the upcoming session, upcoming slides. So I'll just request you to wait because it's just simple. Your data, if you have a labeled output, it is going to be supervised learning. Okay. And if your data don't have any kind of labels or you are trying to find only patterns, then it is called as unsupervised learning. We'll see that now. So what is machine learning? As the name itself suggesting, I hope I can start with the session. As the name itself suggesting, it is some kind of machine is learning. That's it. Okay. So let us see what exactly happens in this machine learning and how this machine learns. That's the idea. So when we talk about this particular term, machine learning, so you'll be getting some terminologies along with this, right? What could be like artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, data science, computer vision, natural language processing. So all these terms are interrelated. So one has some relation with the other and you can't understand what is machine learning without knowing or understanding the other differences also. Okay, so I hope we can start with understanding one by one. So by the end of this session, you have some clear-cut idea about what is AI, what is machine learning, what is deep learning, what is their particular role in different domains. Fine. So let us see about the hierarchical way, starting from artificial intelligence, then machine learning, then deep learning, and so on. So Starting with artificial intelligence, AI, right? So nowadays we live in a world of AI, and you can go into the browser. In this open source world, we have a lot of AIs nowadays available for image generations, text generations, chat GPT, image to text models, stable diffusion models, and Google and many open AI companies like them, they are releasing a lot of AI tools which we are available. Okay, and nowadays we are in the era of AI, right? So what is this artificial intelligence is? So it is the simulation of human-like intelligence and problem-solving abilities in machines and computer systems. So for example, in a computer or in a robot is nothing but a computer which has some physical like hardware systems enabled to it, right? So simulations of human-like intelligence, okay, and problem solving abilities in machines and computer systems. Let's take it in a fun way. Can you please post down what could be like AI in movies and all? You would have seen about AI, right? Robots and all which can think on their own, they act like human, they look like human, and they do the task which like human can't even do. They also do that kind of tasks also, right? For example, even in recent days, not only that kind of robots and all, we try to utilize in whatever way we used to. Okay, for example, we know that India recently successfully landed on moon using Chandrayaan 3. And if you looked into the particular article and if you have read about the tweets from ISRO and all, you would have known that Chandrayaan 3 lands on moon with the help of AI. And particularly in where means it has used in a lot of places, especially in it played a huge role in the landing portion, because we know that the surface of the moon will be having a lot of craters inside of them, and you can't find a flat surface. So that's an important task. And this problem was arised with Chandrayaan 2 itself, because at the point of landing only we had some lot of problems happened. So for that scenario, what they did is they have sensors as well as cameras with images. So these data are transformed and transferred to the AI, which decides where to land, and it successfully helped us in landing, and it was a success. And also they have posted a tweet. This is a tweet from ISRO that on August 27, 2023, the rover came across a 4-meter diameter crater. So once it found that crater, it has retraced its path into some different direction, and it went with that direction, and it's now heading safely on a new path. So how these intelligence, how it is actually deciding? So this capability is AI, okay, and this AI is applied in a lot of places now, like in the domain of medical or healthcare, and in robotics spaces, in agriculture, in chat GPTs and all. Everything is based on this. And in Instagrams, in marketing, social media, and in particularly in data science and all. Okay, so everything you have, you can take it as image or text or music, whatever it is, all things will be in the format of a data, which is down to there, it is going to be numbers. So with these numbers, okay, so how this machine is actually deciding or doing this task, the base for AI or machine learning or deep learning is going to be machine learning. That's the very basic backbone for AI or data science. So this machine learning is the important tool because it's the base. So what does this machine learning is? Machine learning is nothing but creating algorithms or models. Okay, you can call it algorithm or model, and what they do is they are capable of making some informed choices or decisions by processing data and learning from it. So let us split it into parts. Okay, so creation of algorithms and models capable of what they do. They are making or they are doing some informed choices or decisions by processing data and learning from it. So this is exactly what happens when you have your data, you analyze it and then you process it. Because this data, if you ask me how this data is collected, so this data can be collected from open source or from whatever format you can take it. It can be obtained from web scraping, it can be obtained from surveys, you can get medical details from patients with their consent. So all these data is collected by some format. So that's a different part, data collection. So once this data is collected, you may not know whether it is a good data or a bad data. So when I tell it is a good one or a bad one, we don't know what there in the data. So there comes the part of something called as data analytics or data analysis, where what we do is we go and analyze this data, we go and understand this data, and if any problem arises, we go and fine tune the data. So there are certain process and rules and regulations for you to go to some pre-processing techniques before you go into a machine learning concept or algorithm. So we proceed in that way, and then once the process is completed, we move further into this part of machine learning algorithm or model. So what is this? Is nothing but it's algorithm. And when we talk about algorithm, it's nothing but max and statistical tool. And what they does is they get the data, they analyze and transform. Once we done it, we'll be giving the data to the algorithm, right? It is going to get that data, learn the patterns in it, okay? And whatever the task you ask it to do, it is going to perform the task based on it, what it has been learned. For example, I'll tell you in different types of machine learning, you can understand this better. So we have the data, we'll give it to our algorithm, it learns. That is machine learning, creating algorithms and models capable of making some choices or decisions which we tell beforehand, and by pre-processing the data and learning from it. So what is then called as this term which is called as deep learning? Anyone heard about deep learning? What is that meaning? Can I get some response in chat box? Apart from that attendance link and some other texts, it will be nice if we have some meaningful replies in the chat box. Yes. So deep learning, it is going to be a specialized field within machine learning where artificial neural networks are employed to process and analyze complex data. So previously you used a statistical tool which is called as machine learning algorithm. Here we are going and using a neural network architecture, which is a different concept. We'll be seeing that later. And what we do here is we get the data, we'll do the same analysis and pre-processing, and then we give it to our neural network to do this task. And this network, it is going to do the same. It is going to get the data, do the process, and map it to the output which you ask it to tell. And yeah. So that's the whole hierarchy with the help of machine learning and deep learning. And if I want to tell, this neural network is somewhat advanced version of machine learning, okay? So yeah, so we have our artificial intelligence, which is like machines can take decisions on their own, which is backed by the help of machine learning, and then deep learning is an advanced version. So we could tell that this is the hierarchy of them. So going further, let us see the types of machine learning. Is the introduction to machine learning clear? Can I get some response on chat box? Can we start with the types of machine learning now? Can we start with types of machine learning? Is it clear till the introduction? Can we start with what all types, which means how are we going to map it? So we know that we have the data, we give it to the algorithm, we do some process. So how this process happens, or what is the type? Okay, so in machine learning, we have three different types. We have something known as supervised learning, we have unsupervised learning, and then we have reinforcement learning. So yeah, supervised learning, right? So what happens in supervised learning is, consider this scenario, this is your data. Okay, so you have a lot of shapes here. I won't tell you what the shape is. And then you have some labels for them. So if you have this kind of shape, it is called a circle. If you have this kind of shape, it is called a square. And then if you want this kind of shape, this is called as triangle. And we have our data and we have their respective labels, which means that this model, okay, this machine learning model wants to learn. If this is the shape, it is going to be called a circle. If this is the shape, it is called a square. And if this is the shape, we call it as triangle. So it wants to find the patterns and learn and map these labels. So after model training, after this machine learning has been learned, machine has been learned, I am going to ask for it for a prediction. Okay, so I am going to ask it to make some prediction or decision now. So I give a new data, so which is going to be this shape. So when I pass it to this model, it wants to tell that it is a circle based on what it has been learned. So we are actually training it. We are asking the student to learn some questions and their respective answers, and then you are asking to write. Okay, so you are asking to write a test by giving some questions, and then it is going to give some answers. And this is called as supervised learning, where your data has their respective labels. Consider it like you are going to train a student by giving some questions and some answers, respective answers, and this student wants to learn whether the option is going to be this or that or something like that. Okay, and this supervised learning has different types inside of them. You have regression and then classification. Okay, so what is this classification and regression? So we told the student to write some answers, right? If you are asking the student to select the options between A or B, like hot or cold, or between three options like A, B, C, like circle or square or triangle, if you ask the student to select between these options, then those type of supervised machine learning problems are called as classification problem, because your algorithm is classifying between this or that or between multiple classes. If you have 10 different classes, you can ask it to, you can give your algorithm 10 different options and ask it to choose one. Okay, and this is called as classification kind of problem. And then when you go with a regression, what happens is, now consider regression is something like a max problem, where you want to solve this and give a target or a output which is not available. Now you don't have any options. You want to give an output which is going to be a numerical continuous value. Like if I ask you, if I train this algorithm on some data which is going to represent its humidity, what's the sunlight, what's the temperature value, so some data, and then finally you are asking it to predict what's going to be the temperature for tomorrow. You can't tell this or that, right? Here you want to predict a value which will be in a range. It's a continuous value. So that is called as regression in supervised learning, 84 degrees Celsius. Instead, if I ask this algorithm to predict whether tomorrow will be cold or hot, now it want to classify between this or that. So that comes under classification. I hope the supervised learning is clear. Then what is unsupervised learning? So many of you asking the difference, right? So when you go for unsupervised machine learning, you now have unlabeled data. Okay, so now the test is going to be somewhat different. You don't have, or you don't give the student question or answer. You just give some book and then you ask the student to learn on himself and write some glimpse, okay, about it. So this student or this machine learning algorithm now gets a data without any questions or answers. So it learns this unlabeled data and tries to find some patterns between them. For example, here we don't have any labels for this shape, but this algorithm is trained in a way that it wants to find some patterns. So it will group similar peoples together and then distinct people in another groups. For example, we could tell that these two look same, so we keep it in different class, and these two look same, they have some similarities, so keep it different. These two are different and these three are different. So this, you are categorizing or grouping them or clustering them without your data which don't have any labels. So your data don't have any labels. It comes under unlabeled data and it is unsupervised learning. And if it goes under labeled data, it is called as supervised learning. Are we clear with the difference between supervised versus unsupervised learning? Are we clear in this? Is it clear on what's the difference between supervised and unsupervised learning? Can I get some response in chat box? Yes, can I get few more response? Then we have a final type also, which is most probably used in games and all, AI based games and all. It is called as reinforcement learning, where what we do is we have an agent particularly. Okay, so this is an agent which is going to perform. It is an agent which is given a task, and that task is called as action. So it is going to perform this task particularly in a particular environment. It's a game based environment, so we perform it here, and then based on what it has been performed, okay, based on the state whether it has performed correctly or wrongly, we'll be giving a reward to this agent. And if it failed in this task, in this action, we'll be giving or reducing the reward. If it does correctly or good, we'll be improving the reward. So every time this agent is tasked with improving its reward, so if it gets a reward which is high, then it is going to understand that it is performing it in a correct way. If the reward it is getting is low, then it understands that it wants to improve it furthermore. So what it happens is, this is going to run in a loop over the time. So over the time, after a lot of failure, it is going to learn on its own to succeed. And this process is called as reinforcement learning. Let us consider a game. For example, let us consider about Mario game, right? So you are giving an agent which is going to be the Mario player, and the environment is that 2D environment, right? You have to jump over some hurdles, some tortoise and all will came in between, so you have to jump or kick it. You have to escape over some craters and all, so there will be some downfall and all. So at first this will start running at first, and then go and fall into some downfall, and then game ends, so the reward will be less. So it starts again, and then now after multiple failure, it sometimes when it goes near the downfall, it is just going to jump. So the AI learns now to jump, and then the reward will be high, and then it understands that, so okay, so at this particular point I have to jump. So this process goes on, and then finally it masters it. That's what called as reinforcement learning, and it is used in AI based games and all. Okay, and talking about the applications of machine learning, once again machine learning is going to be the backbone of AI. And apart from that, you have applications like medical diagnosis, stock market trading, online fraud detections, virtual personal assistant, email spam and malware filtering, self-driving cars, product recommendations, traffic predictions, speech recognition, image recognition, automatic language translation, and so on. Clear about the applications and types? Any doubts if you have, you can post it in chat box. Once we clarify that, we continue into the next part on how to learn or how to succeed in machine learning, roadmap for machine learning. Can I get some response? Is it clear about the applications? Any other application you know on machine learning? We'll be creating a lot of predictive systems. You have a data, you can start by making a predictive system. Just turn it everything into numbers, so your statistical model can play only with numbers. So they will be proceeding with numbers, and then they can give you meaningful results. So you can use it for regression, you can use it for classification, you can use it for clustering. And if you are familiar in all these things, I'll suggest you to learn reinforcement learning also, which is going to be a game based scenarios for AIs. And if you ask me nowadays, whatever application we have, for example, AI, image generation, okay, text generation, chat GPT. So for all these AIs, the basic is going to be machine learning concepts. So if you know machine learning, you can start with next step, which is deep learning. And if you are familiar now with deep learning, you can either pick image processing and go for image based AIs like auto driving or self driving cars, like Tesla and all have self driving cars, right? Have you seen it? Without any drivers, Tesla cars will drive on its own. How do they do? With the help of machine learning and AI. AI is supported by machine learning. And if you are interested, you could go and learn about NLP or natural language processing, and you can go and shift your focus towards building large language models for training and giving responses on the data like ChatGPT, Google Bard. And nowadays it has moved into furthermore, right? Have anyone heard about Gemini AI from Google? Gemini AI? Heard about it? I just want to show you guys about Gemini AI. Let me just show you about Gemini AI. So this is a AI now introduced by Google. Okay, so it is called as multimodal, okay, which is like it is a combination of different modeling. So now the data can be integrated from text which you type like in chat GPTs. You can go for images, you can upload an image and ask any questions to this AI. You can upload a video and ask any questions to it. Okay, you can add audio and then ask it to do some process here, or for example you can upload audio and ask it to transcribe me into text, it will do for you. And you can add a code there and ask it to help in you, for example modify this code or explain this code or add this functionality in this code. You can ask it. This is Gemini from Google and you have that video and all. So they claim that it is performing really well compared with GPTs and all. And these are all very high advanced applications. Okay, if you start from the scratch, it is going to be machine learning, and then these are some of the advancement we have till now in our respective field. Okay, this is a hands-on with AI, so they explain and then the decisions has been obtained from the models. Okay, so you can also go and explore this. If you are familiar, you can go and use this, and I hope so. Like we have something known as Google Lumiere, okay, which is released recently. So it is actually in GitHub. It is a space-time diffusion model for video generation. Now it has moved into this much better. Okay, so for example here you can do text to video synthesis. See here how quality, like you can go and ask with a prompt of a panda eating bamboo on a rock and it is going to generate this video. How is this obtained? Okay, so all these are basics from machine learning. It is derived from machine learning, and most particularly if I want to tell you, these are all high-end applications of deep learning. And then image to video synthesis itself. Okay, and for example stylized generations. I have introduced this recently, just a few days back. These are some architectures of their model actually. And this is video stylization. Okay, so these are very high-end applications, and if you are interested, I'll suggest you have to be very much pro in machine learning, and then you have to have a well-defined understanding on deep learning and move towards these. So for the understanding of basic machine learning, so I'll tell you a roadmap, so please keep it with you. So you can start with learning the basics, which is going to be, all these code are written with Python programming, so you have to be very much skillful with the basics of Python programming. Only basics is required, you won't go much. Okay, you need to have some understanding till class and object. It is important for Python programming in that sense, and then you can go for data analytics, because once you learned Python, we will be going and importing our data. So if you talk about machine learning, the first step itself, collecting the data and then using or transforming it, analyze and process it, right? So for that task, okay, we will get the data, Python programming, and then data analytics. So you need to also have some exploration idea on statistics as well as maths on how you can analyze this data and process it. And then next step will be going into data pre-processing for your data. So whatever you have explained or understand from this data, you have to go for the respective pre-processing and machine learning concepts. Based on that concepts, we will apply some processing to this data. And then the step 3 is you need to learn different algorithms, when you need to use it, what is the idea behind each one, for which particular task, which algorithm I need to use. So all these understandings can be obtained from this particular step 3 on algorithms. Along with that, model evaluation and optimizations are next part. So once you choose algorithm, you will be testing it on how efficient it is, and then you optimize it to improve its performance. So you can, in step 4, you can do projects. You can do projects on your own. You can use some competitions, something from Kaggle and all. So this is for improving your machine learning skills. And then if you are familiar now with machine learning, in step 5, you can go and improve your knowledge towards NLP or natural language processing to improve yourself into some applications like chat GPTs and all. Or if you want to work on image-based AIs, you can go with computer vision. Or if you want to create some predictive systems like predicting stock prices, time series analysis, predicting or forecasting future values, stock values, you can go with learning time series analysis. So if you want to learn these things, you need to have some solid understanding on machine learning, and then also on deep learning. So on step 5 you can combine deep learning also. And yeah, so going with that, it's time to shift gears. Can we start with the basics of Python in this session? Few basics about Python programming. Is it clear on the steps to follow and the high-end applications of machine learning in recent days? So starting with Python programming, Python is one of the popular programming language. It was created by Guido van Rossum and released in 1991, and it emphasizes on code readability, shorter codes and ease of writing. Whenever you ask someone why they learn Python, it's one of the easiest language you can kickstart with, whatever domain you belong to. And programmers can express logical concepts in fewer lines of code in comparison to other languages such as C++ or Java. And if you ask me what can Python do, is they can be used to create web applications, they can be used along software to create workflows, they can use to handle big data and perform complex maths like in data science and machine learning with AI, and they can connect to database systems as well. They are all-rounder. And why you need to learn Python is they are easy to learn. Its syntax is easy and the code is very readable. A lot of applications in web application, data science and rapid application development are so on, and it allows you to write programs in fewer lines of code. And this is a small demonstration. I hope and I'll tell you that each language has their own advantage and disadvantage. I can't tell you that this is super fine. But one of the primary advantage I'll tell of Python programming is this. The sortability and readability and very simplicity is for Python is available. For example, in C++ or Java, if you want to print a line which is going to be hello world, usually when we start with any programming language, we go with hello world, right? So what we do, so for doing that, if you want to go with C++ or Java, the complexity is increasing, okay, the lines of code increases. But with Python, it is very simple, and for AI, we use it a lot, okay. Python is the base for building machine learning or deep learning or neural networks, and go proceeding with image processing or NLP, whatever you can do with Python. So some of the applications of Pythons are web application creation, desktop applications can be created, game can be developed, data science, image processing, database management, natural language processing, anything towards AI can be built with the help of Python. For example, if you want to build web application development, you can go and utilize some frameworks like Django or Flask. Okay, have you heard about Django or Flask, which is a framework library from Python? You can go and utilize it for creating web applications with Python programming. And if you want to create desktop applications, exe files for your system or PC, you can go and use tkinter or Qi. These tools can be used for creating desktop applications. And for game development, database creation, data science and so on, so we have a lot of application. So for getting started with Python, we'll see in the upcoming session. Thank you. So the basics of Python we'll discuss in tomorrow's session. Thank you. Thank you all.